The hunt begins. The crystalline ship sliced through the void of space, its organic curves glowing with pulses of amber light that matched the rhythm of Kira's heartbeats. She stood before the viewing portal, her 7-foot frame reflected in the polished obsidian of the chamber floor. The bioluminescent patterns along her indigo skin flickered with anticipation as she studied the distant space station. Outpost Helios, her final hunting ground. Ancestral records confirmed. Huntress Kira announced the ship's intelligence, its voice a melodic hiss. Human prey secured within the station. Atmospheric composition adjusted to optimal fear extraction parameters. Kira's lips parted in a smile that revealed rows of pearlescent teeth. Is it the one specifically requested? The soldier. Affirmative. Commander Marcus Reed. Earth Special Forces. Psychological profile indicates exceptional resilience, but all humans succumb to fear eventually. She ran elongated fingers across the ceremonial markings newly etched into her exoskeletal armor. This final hunt would complete her ascension to Huntmaster, the culmination of 3 centuries of preparation. Among her people, the Nyx-Eri, only those who could extract the purest fear from the most challenging prey earned the right to lead. Humans are such fascinating creatures, she mused, her voice resonating with harmonic undertones. So physically frail, yet they've spread across this sector with remarkable efficiency. They compensate for physical limitations with technological ingenuity, the ship replied. However, their emotional spectrum remains their greatest vulnerability, especially fear. Kira nodded. Fear was sustenance to her kind. Not merely psychological satisfaction, but biological necessity. The complex neurochemicals produced by sentient beings experiencing terror provided the essential compounds the Nyx-Eri needed for survival. The more sophisticated the intelligence, the more potent the fear. And humans, with their vivid imaginations and capacity for existential dread, were the most nourishing prey in known space. Begin docking procedures, she commanded, and initiate the isolation protocol. No human communications in or out. As her ship approached the station, Kira completed her pre-hunt meditation. Each measured breath charged her sensory organs, preparing them to detect the subtle pheromones of human terror. She visualized the hunt, the stalking, the moment when her prey would understand its fate, the gradual escalation of fear, like a symphony reaching crescendo, culminating in that exquisite instant when hope finally extinguished. Perfect. Commander Marcus Reed was halfway through his inspection rounds when the station alarms activated, then abruptly silenced. Helios, status report. He commanded, one hand instinctively moving to the pulse pistol at his hip. The station AI didn't respond. Helios. The overhead lights flickered, emergency reserves casting the corridor in a crimson glow. Marcus's eyes narrowed. 17 years in Earth's special forces had taught him to recognize the difference between system malfunctions and deliberate sabotage. This was decidedly the latter. He moved with practiced efficiency toward the central hub, his footsteps deliberately silent against the metal flooring. The station housed only a minimal crew, 3 scientists and 2 security personnel besides himself, assigned to this remote research outpost on the edge of regulated space. Brooks, Davidson, check in, he said into his comm unit. The security officers should have reported by now. Static. The first body he found was Dr. Chen, crumpled near the laboratory entrance. No visible wounds, but her face was frozen in an expression of absolute horror. Marcus checked for vitals. Nothing. The other scientists lay nearby in similar states, eyes wide with terror but bodies unmarked. In the security station, he found Brooks and Davidson slumped at their posts. Their weapons were drawn but unfired. Whatever had killed them had done so without giving them the chance to fight back. Marcus secured the room, accessing the security feeds. Most were offline, but the surviving cameras showed only empty corridors. He downloaded the station's logs to his personal device, noting that external communications had been severed precisely 3 minutes before the alarms triggered. Not pirates. he muttered to himself. Pirates would have stripped the station's resources, not mercs. Mercenaries would have left battle damage. This was something else entirely. He was methodically checking the ventilation access points when he felt it. An almost imperceptible shift in the air pressure. The sensation of being watched prickled at the base of his skull. "Whoever you are," he said calmly to the empty corridor, "this doesn't have to get complicated." A melodic sound like crystal wind chimes echoed from somewhere above him. Laughter. "Fascinating," came a feminine voice, its inhuman cadence sending involuntary shivers down his spine. "Most prey runs when they sense a predator. You address it directly." Marcus maintained his composed expression, eyes scanning for the source of the voice. "If you wanted a conversation, there are less dramatic ways to arrange one. Conversation is not my purpose here." A shadow detached itself from the ceiling, lithe and graceful as it descended before him. Marcus found himself facing a being unlike any species humanity had officially encountered in their expansion through the stars. Nearly 7 feet tall with indigo skin covered in luminescent patterns, its form was powerfully built yet elegant. Predatory eyes studied him with unnerving intensity. "Commander Marcus Reed," the creature said, its mouth forming around the human words with practiced precision. "You are not behaving according to expected parameters." Marcus maintained eye contact, his pulse steady despite the inherent threat before him. "Sorry to disappoint. What parameters would those be?" The alien's head tilted, the motion unnervingly fluid. "Fear, terror, the recognition of prey that it is about to die." It moved closer, sniffing the air around him. "Yet your biochemical signature shows minimal fear response. Unusual." "I've seen too much to waste energy on fear," Marcus replied, maintaining his position without backing away. "It's inefficient." "Inefficient." The alien's bioluminescent patterns pulsed more rapidly. "Fear is the most natural response in the universe. Prey fears predator. This is the way of all things." Marcus shrugged. "Not all things." For the first time, the alien seemed genuinely confused. Its predatory certainty wavered. "I am Kira, Hunt Master Aspirant of the Nixeri. Your species has known of us for decades, though we operate beyond your official diplomatic channels." She circled him with liquid grace. "I have hunted beings from 17 different sentient species. All feared me in the end. Should I be impressed?" Marcus asked, turning to keep her in view, "or just concerned about your dietary habits?" Kira stopped moving, her luminous eyes narrowing. "You know nothing of what I am. I know you killed my crew without giving them a fighting chance. I know you disabled communications, and I know predators only hunt for 2 reasons, food or sport." He met her gaze steadily. "Which is it for you?" "Both," she admitted, the patterns on her skin shifting color slightly. "Though food is an imprecise term. My kind feeds on fear itself, the neurochemicals produced when intelligent beings experience terror. We require these compounds for survival." Understanding clicked into place. Marcus had heard whispers during his military career. Stories of entire outposts found with crews dead but unmarked, their faces frozen in horror. Official reports blamed atmospheric contamination or unclassified alien pathogens. "So I'm dinner," he concluded. "You are my final ceremonial hunt," Kira corrected. "The culmination of centuries of training. Upon successfully completing this hunt, I ascend to Hunt Master." Her head tilted again, studying him. "But you present an unexpected challenge. You acknowledge the danger yet produce minimal fear." Marcus allowed himself a slight smile. "Then I guess we both have problems. You need me scared, and I need you gone." Kira's posture shifted subtly, her predatory stillness transforming into something more calculated. The hunt has traditionally unfolded in stages. First, isolation. Then, recognition. Finally, pursuit until fear reaches optimal levels for. She paused, searching for the word. Harvesting. "Traditional isn't always better," Marcus said, assessing his options. The pulse pistol at his hip would be inadequate against her physiology if his suspicions were correct. He would need strategy over firepower. Indeed, Kira backed away, moving with liquid grace toward the ventilation shaft from which she descended. Perhaps this hunt requires adaptation. I will give you time to consider your situation, Commander. Fear often blossoms most beautifully when one has time to contemplate inevitability. Before Marcus could respond, she leaped upward with inhuman agility, disappearing into the station's infrastructure. Marcus exhaled slowly, dropping the calm facade only when he was certain she had gone. His mind raced through everything he knew about predator psychology, interspecies conflict, and survival scenarios. If what she said was true, this Nyx Airy needed him afraid. His best weapon wasn't his pistol, or even the station's defenses. It was his refusal to give her what she needed. He moved with purpose toward the armory, keying in his override codes. As the door slid open, revealing the station's modest weapons cache, Marcus allowed himself another small smile. The hunt had begun, but not in the way his alien predator had anticipated. For the first time in her hunting career, Kira would face prey that refused to play the role assigned to it. And Marcus intended to use every moment of her adaptation time to prepare a welcome she wouldn't soon forget. From her vantage point within the ventilation system, Kira watched the human with growing fascination. This was not proceeding according to any hunting scenario in her extensive training. The human should be panicking, making irrational decisions, his system flooding with the delicious biochemicals of terror. Instead, he moved with methodical precision, securing weapons and supplies, setting rudimentary traps at key junctions. He was treating this not as prey being hunted, but as a tactical engagement between equals. The thought sent an unfamiliar sensation coursing through her nervous system. Not hunger, not anticipation, but something dangerously close to doubt. Predator and prey. Kira retreated to her ship's docking terminal, her movements less fluid than usual. The encounter with the human had disturbed her equilibrium. She placed her hand against the neural interface, connecting to the ship's consciousness. Analysis, she commanded. Why does this human not respond appropriately? The ship's intelligence pulsed through her mind. Subject's neural patterns show anomalous stress response mechanisms. Combat history indicates exposure to extreme conditions that may have permanently altered fear pathways. Kira's inner eyelids flickered with irritation. Explain further. Records indicate Commander Reed survived the Centauri massacre. Sole survivor of a 6-day siege against overwhelming forces. Psychological evaluation afterward noted diminished fear response, classified as adaptive trauma response rather than neurological damage. She absorbed this information, her luminescent patterns fluctuating with contemplation. The human was specifically selected for this hunt. Why choose prey with diminished fear production? Query exceeds available data parameters. The ship's non-answer intensified Kira's unease. The ceremonial hunt was meant to challenge her skills. Yes, but it was also intended to provide the rich neurochemical harvest needed for her biological transformation into Hunt Master. Without sufficient fear compounds, the ascension ritual would fail. Display human military training protocols, she ordered, determined to understand her unusual prey. As information cascaded through her consciousness, Kira realized she faced a fundamental problem. Earth's elite soldiers were specifically conditioned to function under extreme stress, to compartmentalize fear rather than succumb to it. Commander Reed represented the pinnacle of this training. For the first time in centuries of hunting, Kira faced the unsettling possibility of failure. Marcus finished rigging the last proximity sensor in the corridor leading to the central hub. With station power compromised, he'd had to improvise using equipment from the research labs. The makeshift system wouldn't stop his hunter, but it would give him advance warning of her approach. He'd spent the past hours systematically preparing the station, transforming it from hunting ground to battlefield. The central hub now served as his command center, multiple escape routes secured, weapons cached at strategic points throughout nearby sections. "Helios," he called out, knowing the station eye was unlikely to respond. To his surprise, a fragmented holographic interface flickered to life. "Com. Der read. Says, Thames. Compromised. Operating at 17% capacity. Can you access external communications? Negative. All com. Arrays physically. Severed." Marcus nodded. "Access station blueprints. Show me maintenance tunnels and ventilation routes." The hologram shifted, displaying a three-dimensional schematic of the station's infrastructure. Marcus studied it intently, noting how the ventilation system created an effective secondary transit network throughout the structure. This was how his hunter moved so efficiently. "What can you tell me about the intruder?" Helios's hologram flickered more severely. "Species. Classification. Restricted. Warning. Hunt protocol in effect. Access to relevant data blocked by executive command." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "Override. Authorization read Delta 79. Override. Insufficient. Executive command. Originates. Earth Central Command." The revelation hit Marcus like a physical blow. Earth Central Command. His own superiors had authorized this. The station wasn't randomly attacked. It was deliberately selected. He was deliberately selected. Before he could process this betrayal, the proximity alert chimed softly. "Movement in the eastern corridor. I have been observing your preparations, Commander." Kira's voice echoed through the station's communication system. Impressive for one with such limited time and resources. Marcus maintained silence, moving to a better defensive position. "Your own command sacrificed you," she continued. "Does this knowledge not inspire fear? Anger? Betrayal?" "It inspires focus," he replied evenly. "Why were you specifically sent after me?" A pause. "I was not sent. I chose this station from candidates approved for the ceremonial hunt. Though I now suspect the selection was manipulated." "By whom?" "That remains unclear," Kira admitted. "But I begin to believe we are both pawns in a larger game." Marcus considered this. "You mentioned your people have interacted with humans before, outside official channels. For decades, selected human authorities provide hunting grounds in exchange for technological benefits, a mutually beneficial arrangement. Beneficial to everyone except the hunted," Marcus noted dryly. "The natural order rarely consults prey," Kira responded, though her tone lacked its earlier certainty. Marcus moved silently toward one of his weapon caches. "And what happens if you fail to complete your hunt successfully?" Another pause, longer this time. "Without sufficient fear compound harvest from worthy prey, the ascension ritual fails. I would be diminished, cast out. So you need me afraid?" "Yes. And I refuse to give you what you need." Marcus allowed himself a tight smile. Quite the predicament. The communication system fell silent, but Marcus sensed she hadn't withdrawn. She was considering adapting. Predators faced with unexpected resistance had two choices: abandon the hunt for easier prey or escalate. Given what she'd revealed about the importance of this ceremonial hunt, abandonment seemed unlikely. Escalation it would be. When it came, the attack was not what he expected. Rather than a frontal assault or ambush, the station's environmental systems suddenly went haywire. Temperature plummeted, oxygen levels fluctuated, and emergency lighting strobed disorienting patterns. A classic stress induction technique. Environmental manipulation to create physical discomfort and psychological disorientation, breaking down resistance. Marcus calmed his breathing, centering himself as the temperature dropped below freezing. Ice crystals formed on exposed surfaces as his breath clouded before him. His military training included survival in extreme environments. Discomfort would not break him. "An interesting approach," he called out, knowing she monitored the station. "But I've survived worse conditions on Europa during the ice mining rebellion." The lights stabilized, though the temperature remained punishingly cold. "Your adaptability continues to impress," Kira's voice acknowledged. Most species would show signs of fear by now. Maybe you should try asking nicely instead. A sound like crystalline wind chimes echoed through the station, her laughter. You suggest I simply request your fear. How would that work, Commander? About as well as your current methods, he replied, using the conversation to mask his movements as he relocated. Maybe it's time to consider alternatives. Alternatives to the hunt. Her voice held genuine confusion. That is not our way. Then your way has encountered an impasse. The temperature began to normalize, systems gradually returning to standard parameters. Marcus recognized the gesture for what it was, a tactical withdrawal to reassess. As the environmental attack subsided, Marcus used the opportunity to access the station's database. If Earth Central Command had authorized this hunt, there might be records explaining why. The betrayal stung, but more pressing was understanding the larger context. Why sacrifice an experienced officer to an alien predator? The database yielded fragmented information, much of it corrupted or classified beyond his access level. But scattered through the accessible files were references to something called the Ascension Treaty, an apparent agreement between Earth authorities and the Nixari, dating back nearly 30 years. Further digging revealed the outlines of a chilling arrangement. In exchange for advanced technology, particularly in the fields of neural interface and biological engineering, certain human authorities provided hunting access to remote outposts. The treaty specified rigorous selection criteria for potential hunting grounds, including minimum personnel requirements and psychological profiles of station crews. Marcus's blood ran cold despite the normalizing temperature. The stations weren't randomly chosen. They were specifically staffed to provide optimal fear harvest for the alien hunters. His own crew, the scientists and security personnel who had died in terror, had been selected as appetizers before the main course, and he had been chosen as the ceremonial prey. The final, challenging hunt to complete Kira's ascension. As he processed this betrayal, the proximity sensors triggered again, this time from multiple directions simultaneously. She was done with remote tactics. This would be direct confrontation. Marcus readied himself, weapon drawn. "Come on, then," he muttered. "Let's see what you've got." Kira dropped from the ceiling with fluid grace, her form a blur of motion. Marcus fired, the pulse weapon discharging with a sharp crack, but she twisted midair, impossibly fast. The shot grazed her exoskeletal armor, leaving a scorched mark, but doing no apparent damage. She landed in a predatory crouch, luminescent patterns blazing with intensity. "Your weapons are inadequate, Commander." Marcus maintained steady aim. "Maybe, but I'm just getting started." What followed was a deadly dance of attack and counter. Kira's natural advantages, strength, speed, reach, offset by Marcus's tactical experience and preparation. When she lunged, he used her momentum against her, redirecting rather than opposing her superior strength. When she retreated to the ventilation system, he triggered prepared traps, forcing her to choose new approaches. Neither gained decisive advantage until Marcus activated the localized gravity distortion he'd rigged in the research lab. The field caught Kira mid-leap, sending her crashing into a bulkhead with bone-jarring force. For a moment she lay still, blue-green fluid seeping from a crack in her exoskeletal armor. Blood or something analogous. Marcus approached cautiously, weapon trained on her prone form. Kira's eyes fixed on him, luminescence dimmed but awareness undiminished. "You would kill me now." "That depends on you," Marcus replied, keeping his distance. "I want answers first." Her hand moved to the wound, applying pressure. What answers could possibly matter at this juncture? "Why me? And don't tell me it was random selection. Your ship confirmed I was specifically requested for this hunt." Kira's inner eyelids flickered in what might have been confusion. "That information was withheld from me until after our first encounter. The normal protocol allows the hunter to select from approved hunting grounds, but in this case, my superiors directed me specifically to you." Her luminescent patterns pulsed weakly. "I begin to suspect sabotage." Sabotage of what? My ascension, she explained, her voice strained with pain. If I fail to harvest sufficient fear compounds from this ceremonial hunt, I cannot complete the biological transformation required to become Huntmaster. Such failure would create political advantages for certain factions among my kind. Marcus considered this, pieces falling into place. And if I'm psychologically incapable of producing the fear response you need, then regardless of my hunting skill, failure is inevitable. Kira's expression shifted to something almost respectful. You were not selected as worthy prey, Commander. You were selected as impossible prey. The revelation hung between them, shifting the dynamic yet again. They were both pawns, manipulated by forces seeking advantages in games beyond their immediate understanding. Kira struggled to rise, her injured body moving with less than its usual fluid grace. This changes nothing between us. I must complete the hunt or face exile. Or, Marcus suggested, lowering his weapon slightly, we could try something completely different. Her head tilted in that unnervingly smooth way. Explain. Someone set both of us up. Someone with access to both my military command structure and your hunting authorities. I'm interested in finding out who and why. As am I, she acknowledged. But this does not resolve my biological imperative. Without fear compounds, the ascension fails. Marcus smiled thinly. Then maybe it's time to find someone who actually deserves to be afraid. Starting with whoever arranged this setup. For the first time since their encounter began, Kira's luminescent patterns displayed a color Marcus hadn't seen before, a deep violet that spread slowly across her indigo skin. You propose alliance. The concept seemed to both intrigue and disturb her. I propose survival, Marcus corrected, followed by answers. And possibly revenge. Kira considered this, her predatory instincts visibly warring with pragmatism. Finally, she nodded, a gesture deliberately adopted from human communication. A temporary arrangement, she qualified, until we identify those responsible for this manipulation. Agreed, Marcus said, though he kept his weapon ready. Trust would take more than a single conversation. As Kira rose to her full height, something changed in the station's ambient noise, a subtle shift in the environmental systems that both predator and prey recognized instantly. We have company, Kira hissed, her wounds seemingly forgotten as she oriented toward the docking bay. Marcus nodded. Looks like someone's come to check on their experiment. The hunter and the hunted exchanged a look of perfect understanding. Whatever their differences, whoever had manipulated them had just made a serious miscalculation. Understanding the enemy. The station's docking alert chimed softly, confirming an incoming vessel had bypassed normal authorization protocols. Marcus and Kira moved with silent coordination toward the observation deck, keeping to cover. Their uneasy alliance was minutes old, built on the fragile foundation of mutual manipulation by unknown forces. Your kind or mine, Marcus whispered as they positioned themselves with a clear view of the docking bay. Kira's bioluminescent patterns had dimmed to near invisibility, an adaptive camouflage that rendered her difficult to detect in the shadows. The ship configuration is human, she replied, her voice barely audible. But that proves nothing. The Ascension Treaty includes technology sharing. The airlock cycled, pressurizing to match the station's atmosphere. When the doors finally opened, 3 figures emerged, 2 humans in military uniforms, and 1 tall, indigo-skinned figure whose luminescent patterns pulsed with authority. Well, Marcus muttered, that answers that question. The alien was unmistakably of Kira's species, though the patterns on its skin were more elaborate, the exoskeletal armor more ornate. The humans flanking it wore the insignia of Earth Central Command Special Operations Division, General Hayes' personal security detail. Kira's reaction was immediate and visceral. Morishan, she hissed, the name carrying layers of emotion. Hunt Master Prime, and my former mentor. Former. He sponsored my candidacy for Ascension, then withdrew support when I questioned certain arrangements with your species. Marcus studied the unlikely trio as they moved deeper into the station. And the humans. General Hayes's representatives, presumably. Kira's inner eyelids flickered rapidly, a sign of intense calculation. This confirms coordination at the highest levels. They withdrew from the observation point, retreating to a maintenance shaft where they could speak more freely. "We need information before confrontation," Marcus insisted. "My crew died for this arrangement. I want to know why." Kira nodded, her usual predatory intensity now focused on this new prey. "My ship's neural interface can extract data from the station's systems that would be inaccessible to your methods. Can you access it remotely?" "Within certain parameters. The ship's intelligence operates semi-autonomously." Marcus considered their options. The newcomers would discover their absence from the expected hunting scenario quickly. Time was limited. "Do it," he decided. "I'll create a diversion if needed." Kira placed her elongated fingers against a neural access point, closing her luminous eyes as she established connection with her vessel. Marcus kept watch, one eye on the corridor and one on his unlikely ally. Despite their temporary alignment of interests, he hadn't forgotten what she was, a predator evolved to feed on the terror of sentient beings. After several tense minutes, Kira's eyes opened, the glow intensified with new information. "The arrangement is more extensive than either of us realized," she said, her voice carrying unusual emotional undertones. "The Ascension Treaty was merely the beginning. General Hayes and Morrison have expanded their cooperation beyond approved parameters." "Meaning?" "They have established a breeding program," Kira revealed, disgust evident in her tone. "Humans with enhanced fear response systems, specifically engineered to produce more potent neurochemicals when terrified. A sustainable food source that would eliminate the need for hunting." Marcus felt his stomach turn. Human farms. Precisely. But such an arrangement violates our most sacred hunting traditions. The Nixari Council would never approve. Her luminescent patterns pulsed with agitation. Morrison intended to use his position as Hunt Master Prime to override objections, while Hayes would provide the genetic engineering expertise and initial subjects. "And you were becoming inconvenient to these plans," Marcus surmised. "As were you," Kira confirmed. "Your psychological profile indicated resistance to fear induction that might be heritable, a trait they wouldn't want in their breeding stock. And my questioning of Morrison's increased cooperation with human military elements made me a political liability." The revelation settled between them, ugly in its implications. Two leaders, alien and human, conspiring to farm sentient beings for biological harvesting. Marcus had seen atrocities in his military career, but this reached a new level of calculated depravity. "My ascension hunt was designed to fail," Kira continued, discrediting me before the Council while eliminating you as a potential genetic contaminant. "Efficient," Marcus said grimly. "What else did you learn?" "The research conducted at this station focused on fear response enhancement, genetic modifications to intensify terror, and the resulting biochemical production." Her voice hardened. "Your crew members were test subjects. Their deaths were not hunting casualties, but experimental trials." Marcus felt cold rage crystallizing within him. His crew hadn't just been sacrificed as appetizers in an alien hunt. They had been laboratory specimens. "And now Hayes and Morrison are here to clean up loose ends," he concluded. "Us?" Kira nodded. "They will expect me to have failed in harvesting sufficient fear compounds from you. They will not expect us to have uncovered their larger plan or formed an alliance." "Tactical advantage," Marcus noted. "Slim, but real." They spent the next hour preparing, communicating in whispers and gestures as they established a plan. The station, designed as a hunting ground, would become their weapon. Marcus's knowledge of human military protocols combined with Kira's understanding of Nixari physiology created possibilities neither could have developed alone. As they worked, Marcus observed subtle changes in Kira's behavior. The predatory confidence remained, but the dismissive superiority had vanished. She treated him as an equal partner in their desperate strategy, acknowledging his suggestions and offering refinements without the condescension that had marked their earlier interactions. "Why the change?" he finally asked as they rigged the final trap. Kira paused, her luminous eyes studying him. "You mean my attitude toward you? You started this hunt seeing me as prey. Food. Now we're planning an ambush together." Her inner eyelids flickered thoughtfully. "My people have a concept, shamari, roughly translated as worthy adversary. It refers to prey that elevates itself through courage or intelligence to a status deserving respect." The patterns on her skin shifted to that deep violet he'd seen earlier. "Few achieve this recognition. None before from your species. I'm honored, I think." "As you should be," she replied with surprising earnestness. "Shamari are rare enough that our traditions include protocols for them. The hunter may elect to end the hunt and recognize the prey as not equal precisely, but worthy of continued existence." "That's progressive of you," Marcus said dryly. A sound like crystal wind chimes emanated from her, that alien laughter. "It is pragmatic. Species that produce individuals capable of transcending prey status may eventually evolve beyond viable hunting. Better to establish different relationships before that point." Before Marcus could respond, the proximity sensors triggered. Their visitors had finally tracked them to this section. "Ready?" he asked, moving to his position. Kira nodded, the predatory focus returning to her posture. "Remember, Morishan's neural cluster is at the base of his skull, where the luminescent patterns converge. A direct strike there will disorient him temporarily. And Hayes's men will have standard military augmentations, enhanced reflexes, subdermal armor. Target joints and sensory organs," Kira advised. "I will handle Morishan." They fell silent as footsteps approached, 3 sets moving with military precision. The trap was simple but elegant, an apparent system malfunction in a critical junction that would require inspection, leaving the inspectors temporarily vulnerable. When the door slid open, Marcus triggered the localized EMP pulse, disrupting the human's tactical implants while simultaneously initiating a strobing light sequence calibrated to the specific frequency that disrupted Nick's airy sensory processing. The ambush was brutally effective. In the critical first seconds, Marcus incapacitated both human soldiers with precision strikes to vulnerabilities not protected by their augmentations. Simultaneously, Kira launched herself at Morishan, her smaller frame moving with devastating speed, enhanced by righteous fury. The Hunt Master Prime recovered quickly despite the sensory disruption, his centuries of experience evident in his measured counterattacks. What followed was a blur of motion too fast for human perception. Nick's airy combat at its most lethal. Where Kira fought with focused rage, Morishan exhibited cold precision, his movements economical and devastating. "Ungrateful child," he hissed in their native language, vocal harmonics conveying layers of contempt. "I elevated you from nothing, and this is how you repay me. Allying with prey." Kira's response came between strikes, her smaller form using speed to counter his greater strength. "You violated the hunting code. You conspired to farm sentient beings. You betrayed everything we are." As the aliens battled, Marcus secured the human soldiers, using their own restraints to bind them. He recovered their weapons, advanced pulse rifles that would prove far more effective than his standard-issue pistol. When one of the men regained consciousness enough to struggle, Marcus leaned close. "Tell Hayes his project is finished," he said coldly before rendering the man unconscious again with a precise strike. The alien combat reached crescendo as Morishan gained advantage, pinning Kira against a bulkhead with enormous strength. "Foolish child," he growled, "did you think you could challenge me? I have hunted for millennia. I have consumed fear from species now extinct." Marcus leveled the pulse rifle, adjusting settings to maximum output. "Hey," he called out, voice deadly calm. "Hunting season's over." The blast caught Morishan directly in his exposed neural cluster. The Hunt Master Prime convulsed, luminescent patterns flaring chaotically before he collapsed in a heap of armored limbs and indigo skin. Kira recovered quickly, securing her former mentor with specialized restraints from her hunting gear. "He lives," she confirmed, though her tone suggested this might be temporary. "The Council must know what he has done." Marcus nodded, adrenaline still coursing through his system. "And my people need to understand what Hayes was planning." They stood over their captives, hunter and hunted now united as executioners of justice. The immediate threat was neutralized, but both recognized the larger implications remained to be addressed. "What happens now?" Marcus asked. Kira's luminous eyes met his. "Now we bring truth to both our peoples. Neither will welcome it." Beyond the hunt, the journey to Earth's Central Command proceeded in tense silence. After securing the Helios station and documenting their findings, Marcus and Kira had made the strategic decision to confront both power structures simultaneously. Kira's ship, faster than any human vessel, carried them and their prisoners through space, its organic technology pulsing with amber light. In the ship's detention chamber, General Hayes had finally regained full consciousness, his augmented system having processed the sedatives faster than anticipated. He glared at Marcus with undisguised contempt. "You have no idea what you're interfering with, Commander," he said, military bearing intact despite his restraints. "This arrangement would have revolutionized human advancement." Marcus studied the man who had once been his superior officer, searching for signs of the leader he had respected. By farming humans for alien consumption. Quite the revolution. By securing technological exchange that would have advanced us centuries beyond our current capabilities. Hayes leaned forward, intensity burning in his eyes. "Do you think humanity can compete in this galaxy through conventional development? We're surrounded by species with millennia head start. So your solution was human sacrifice." Hayes scoffed. "Sacrifice implies waste. This was utilization. The genetic engineering alone would have transformed medicine. The neural interface technology they provided has applications beyond anything publicly available." "At the cost of human dignity," Marcus countered. "At the cost of everything that makes us who we are." "Sentiment," Hayes dismissed. The calculus was clear. Sacrifice thousands to elevate billions. Marcus shook his head, recognizing the cold utilitarian logic that had corrupted the general's thinking. "There's always another way, one that doesn't require becoming monsters to defeat them." In the adjacent chamber, Kira conducted her own interrogation. Morrison, though physically restrained, maintained the imperious bearing of Hunt Master Prime. "The Council will never believe you over me," he told her, luminescent patterns pulsing with confidence despite his situation. "Your failed ascension hunt has left you without standing." "The hunt did not fail," Kira replied calmly. "It evolved beyond your limited conception." Morishan's inner eyelids flickered with disdain. "You harvested no fear compounds. You allied with prey. You violated every protocol of the ceremonial hunt." "I discovered truth," she countered. "The protocols exist to ensure worthy predation, not to enable farming of sentient beings. You are the one who betrayed our most sacred traditions. Our traditions will die unless adapted." Morishan's harmonics shifted to reveal genuine concern beneath his arrogance. "The hunting grounds grow scarcer. Spacefaring species develop defenses against our methods. Within generations, the Nyx-Eri face starvation." Kira moved closer, studying her former mentor with new understanding. "So fear drove you to this. How appropriate." "Pragmatism," he corrected. "The arrangement with Hayes offered sustainable future, a future that would have transformed us from hunters to farmers, from predators to parasites." Her luminescent patterns displayed the deep violet of resolve. "There are better adaptations possible." When they rejoined in the ship's command center, Marcus and Kira exchanged what they had learned. Both leaders had acted from perceived necessity, Hayes seeking technological advantage for humanity's survival among more advanced species, Morishan attempting to secure his people's future in a changing galaxy. "They aren't entirely wrong about the problems," Marcus acknowledged reluctantly. Humanity is technologically outmatched by most established spacefaring species, and hunting grounds grow more limited as space travel expands, Kira added. But their solution betrays both our people's essential nature. The ship's intelligence interrupted their discussion. Approaching Earth orbital space. Detection by human defense systems imminent. Marcus activated the communication system he'd configured. Earth Central Command. This is Commander Marcus Reed aboard unidentified vessel. Authorization code Reed Echo Delta 79er. Requesting direct communication with Admiral Chen. The response came swiftly. Commander Reed, you were reported killed in action at Outpost Helios. Verify identity. Transmitting biometric confirmation now, Marcus replied. Placing his palm on the scanner Kira had adapted for human physiology, and requesting emergency protocol Omega-3. Silence stretched until the communication system crackled again. Verification accepted. Omega-3 protocol initiated. Proceed to coordinates being transmitted. The coordinates led them not to Earth Central Command's main facility, but to a secure orbital platform used for sensitive diplomatic engagements. As they docked, Marcus turned to Kira. Admiral Chen is one of the few people with authority over Hayes. She's also known for ethical rigidity. If anyone will listen without immediate prejudice, it's her. Kira nodded, her luminescent patterns shifting nervously. And the Nexari Council representatives. That depends on your diplomatic skills, Marcus said, and how progressive your council actually is. Their prisoners were transferred to separate detention facilities, Hayes to Earth Central Command Security Division, Mauritian to a containment area specifically designed for non-human physiology. The evidence they had gathered from Helios Station was secured with multiple redundancies, ensuring no single authority could suppress it. Admiral Chen received them in a spartanly furnished meeting room, her weathered face betraying no emotion as Marcus explained the situation. When he finished, she remained silent for a long moment. These are extraordinary allegations, Commander, she finally said, her voice measured. They implicate one of our most decorated generals in crimes against humanity and violation of at least 7 interspecies treaties. The evidence is conclusive, Marcus replied. The Helios Station data, Hayes' own records, and Mauritian ship logs all confirm the breeding program was in advanced planning stages. Chen turned her attention to Kira, studying the alien with scientific interest rather than fear or hostility. And you claim your species has maintained covert contact with certain human elements for decades. Yes, Kira confirmed. The Ascension Treaty established protocols for limited hunting rights in exchange for technological transfers. The treaty itself, while morally questionable by your standards, operated within defined parameters. What Hayes and Mauritian planned went far beyond those boundaries. The Admiral's expression remained unreadable. Why come forward now? Why expose your own people's activities? Kira's luminescent patterns shifted to that deep violet that Marcus had come to recognize as her expression of principled resolve. Because some boundaries should not be crossed, even in the name of species survival. The farming of sentient beings for consumption violates principles foundational to both our cultures. Admiral Chen nodded slightly, the first sign of approval she'd shown. I'll need to convene a special tribunal. This cannot go through standard channels. Too many opportunities for interference. The Nexari Council will send representatives once I've made initial contact, Kira added. They will be displeased by these revelations, but our evidence is substantial. As they exited the meeting, Marcus felt the weight of what lay ahead. Exposing the conspiracy would disrupt human-Nexari relations, possibly leading to conflict if handled poorly. Yet the alternative, allowing the breeding program to proceed, was unthinkable. Second thoughts? Kira asked, sensitive to his shifting mood. Considering consequences, Marcus corrected. This won't be clean or simple. Few worthwhile things are. Her hand briefly touched his arm, the gesture deliberately human in its expression of solidarity. But better a difficult truth than a comfortable atrocity. In the days that followed, Both faced intense questioning from their respective authorities. The Nexari Council dispatched investigators who verified Kira's evidence with rigorous thoroughness. Earth Central Command established a classified tribunal to address Hayes' actions and the broader implications of the unauthorized treaty. When they finally reconvened, it was in the neutral ground of the orbital platform's observation deck. Earth hung below them, a blue-green jewel against the void. Mauritian has been stripped of his position, Kira reported, her luminescent patterns subdued. The Council has voted to revoke all existing hunting arrangements with human authorities, pending comprehensive review. Hayes is facing trial for treason, unauthorized genetic experimentation, and crimes against humanity, Marcus added. The tribunal is still determining how far the conspiracy extended. They stood in companionable silence, predator and prey united by shared ordeal and purpose. "What of your ascension?" Marcus finally asked, without completing the ceremonial hunt. "The parameters have been adjusted," Kira replied, a hint of that crystalline laughter in her voice. "The Council has recognized that exposing corruption within our highest ranks represents a form of hunt worthy of ascension. I will complete the ritual upon my return, without the fear compound you needed." Her luminescent patterns rippled thoughtfully. "There are alternatives being researched. Synthetic compounds that provide necessary nutrition without harvesting from sentient beings." Mauritian rejected these approaches as traditional blasphemy, but necessity encourages innovation. Marcus nodded, relieved that at least some positive change might emerge from the ordeal. "And what about us, humans, and Nexari?" "That," Kira said, turning to face him fully, "represents both our greatest challenge and opportunity. My people must evolve beyond seeing yours solely as prey. Yours must recognize us as more than monsters." "It won't be easy," Marcus acknowledged. "Fear is a powerful instinct." "As is courage," she countered, "which you demonstrated exists even in potential prey species. This changes the fundamental calculus of our relationship." The observation deck illuminated as the station orbited into Earth's daylight. In the sudden brightness, hunter and hunted faced each other not as natural enemies, but as representatives of species that needed to find a new way forward. "The Council has appointed me as formal liaison to Earth authorities," Kira revealed. "The first official acknowledgement of our presence among your kind. And Admiral Chen has requested I head security for the diplomatic initiative." Marcus smiled slightly. "Apparently, surviving an alien Huntress qualifies me for the position." Kira's luminescent patterns displayed that deep violet once more. "Then it seems our hunt has transformed into something neither of us anticipated." "Adaptation," Marcus said, deliberately using her species terminology. "Isn't that what successful predators do best?" The crystalline sound of her laughter filled the observation deck, no longer alien but familiar. Together they turned toward Earth, where representatives of predator and prey would soon begin the complex process of forging a relationship based on something more sustainable than fear. For Marcus Reed, who had refused to be afraid, and Kira, who had evolved beyond needing that fear, it represented not an ending but a beginning, a hunt for understanding that might ultimately benefit both their kinds.